Good day to my professor and to my classmates. My name is Adeline Mejerito and I will report about dimensions of culture. To begin, we all know that being aware of various culture is one of the most important concerns that any company should be aware of. And with that, itong mga business na ito na nag-ooperate sa iba't ibang parte ng mundo ay kinakailangang maging knowledgeable sa kung anong culture ang nag-e-exist sa bansa kung saan sila nag-ooperate. Nowadays, doing business in global market is not only in large corporation because even small and medium enterprises can do international business. It only means na ang necessity when it comes to understanding culture across various countries is extremely important. Alam naman natin na ang mga business na hindi nakikisabay sa malawak na competition sa global market ay yung mga business na hindi nagbibigay ng panahon to understand the culture of different nations. So, speaking of understanding the culture, paano nga ba natin maintindihan itong mga culture na ito? Is there some way for us to gain strategic understanding of them? Of course, yes. And the answer is yes. There are several research studies that have investigated this problem. At ilan sa mga kilala na nagbigay ng contribution sa ganitong usapin ay sina Geert Hofstede at Edward T. Hall. Let us start by introducing to you who is Geert Hofstede. So, he is a well-known Dutch cultural researcher. He has become known for pioneering research on national and organizational cultures. And he believes that culture is the collective programming of mind which distinguishes the member of one group or category of the people of one another. With definition of culture, people will be able to become part of one society despite of their differences as long as the people are willing to adopt the culture of others. So for example, yung mga Americans are willing to adopt the culture of the Filipinos. So, natututunan nila yung culture sa Pilipinas. So it means that culture can be learned. So, to continue, Geert Hofstede conducted a study. So, he conducted detailed interviews with hundreds of IBM employees in 53 countries. Through standard statistical analysis of large data sets, he determined patterns of similarities and differences among the replies from this data analysis. And he developed 5 dimensions of culture in 1990s. Hofstede published the results of this research in the publication Cultures and Organization, Softwares of Mind. Initially, he developed 4 dimensions in culture, but he added the 5th dimension in 1991. His 5 dimensions of culture are the following. So, first is the power distance. Second, collectivism versus individualism. Third is femininity versus masculinity. Third is uncertainty avoidance. And the 5th is long and short-term orientation. The first dimension of culture is power distance. It refers that how really a group or community embraces or rejects individual distinction. People in certain cultures embraces and equally allocated to a greater extent than people in other culture. So there are bonds that we call the bond between bosses and subordinates is one, the dependency in high power, distant society. And the bond between bosses and subordinates in a low power is one of the interdependence or on connectivity. So in this dimension, may mga bansa na may matataas na degree ng power distance. This means that these countries are believing that authority and power are the reality of life. So kapag nag-market ka or nag-offer sa bansa na may mataas na power distance, you will understand it basically because it is part of their culture, and if you understand, you will be able to make strategic actions pertaining to this concern. So, based on some research, Australia is a low power distance country while Asian countries are high power countries like Hong Kong. As a result of high power distance, leaders are expected to resolve conflicts as well as to make all difficult decisions.
Subordinates will follow the leaders in order rather than to challenge him or her or to try to come up with one conflict resolution strategy. They really inspire leaders' authority. On the other hand, there is an option or consultation in lower power distance, and employees will approach and contradict their bosses with convenience by suggesting their own perspective. The parties will freely work towards on resolving any disagreements. And if they are unable to resolve it, they may seek assistance of a mediator. Leaders are actually encouraging in independent thinking and contribution in problem solving. The second one is individualism. It refers to people's tendency to take care of themselves and their immediate circle of family and friends, perhaps at the expense of the overall society. Sa isang organization, hindi mawawalang ganitong klase ng values kahit gaano kaganda ang nag-e-exist na organizational culture. Mayroon pa ding sense of individualism sa mga taong kabilang sa isang community. Individualistic societies prioritize the individual's interest above the needs of community as a whole. So, people in the society are seen as self-sufficient and autonomous. Human beliefs and desire has a strong influence on social behavior. So, according to research, individualistic culture predominate in North America and Western Europe. So, kapag nag-enter kayo ng negosyo somewhere Western Europe, hindi na kayo magkaka-culture shock dahil aware na kayo na predominantly nag-exist ang individualistic culture sa kanila. The third one is masculinity. It refers to how a culture ranks on traditionally perceived masculine values, assertiveness, materialism, and less concern for others. In masculine-oriented culture, gender roles are usually crisply defined. In this cultural context, of which countries' dominant goals are accomplishment, assertiveness, and financial prosperity, as compared to countries that prioritize partnership, concern with quality of life, and humility. Masculinity means standing for a social structure which cultural social norms are distinctly different. Men are expected to be aggressive, harsh, and concentrated on material success, while women are expected to be more respectable, tender, and concerned with quality of life, according to Hofstede. So, paano natin malalaman kung isang bansa ay may mababa o mataas na masculinity norms? So, according to Hofstede, if the country's social norm are more ego-oriented, wealth and object are essential, and people live in order to work. The country has high masculinity, whereas if the country's social norm are relationship-oriented quality of life and people are important, and people work in order to live, the country has no masculinity. Uncertainty avoidance is another important value dimension defined by Hofstede. Is the degree to which people feel disturbed by unexpected and extraordinary events that can call into question. There is a long-held values and institutions. So countries that value heritage and culture have high level of uncertainty avoidance, while countries that value versatility and informality have a low level of uncertainty avoidance. So countries with high uncertainty avoidance include Greece, Japan, France, Mexico, Israel, and Germany. The low uncertainty avoidance countries are Singapore, Denmark, Great Britain, and United States. This report is in accordance with the Handbook of Global User Research. The long-term orientation is the final major value dimension. It denotes whether a community is a long-term or short-term oriented. This dimension, which was based on the analysis by Michael Bond in Hong Kong, who found that Hofstede reviews for cultural dimensions did not accurately represent Asian viewpoints on culture. So according to this dimension, ang isang bansa na may high long-term orientation ay may mga traits katulad ng they are emphasis on persistent relationships ordered by status. Personal adaptability is important. Leisure time is not too important. And yung mga bansa naman na may short-term orientation is emphasis on quick result status, that a major issue in relationship. Personal steadfastness and stability important, but the leisure time is important. Now, let's have a look at Edward T. Hall perspectives. Edward T. Hall is a respected anthropologist who applied his field to the study of community and intercultural communications. The first principal category defined by Hall is a context that is divided into two, the high and the low context culture. It is a distinction between high and low context societies. Is intended to draw attention to the discrepancies between verbal and non-verbal communication. So, high context societies can be communicate in a way that emphasizes the message underlying context, meaning, and sound rather than just words themselves. So, countries Japan, China, France, Spain, Brazil, and other countries fell under this category. Kapag sinabi naman natin na low context communities, it requires messages to be clearly communicated to avoid misunderstanding. Because if the statement is plain enough, it will slow down the negotiation process, leaving any illegal space for interpretation. That can be dangerous in some situations. Western societies such as the United Kingdom, Australia, and the United States are example of low context communities. So if you have business at binabalak mong mag-internationalize in your operations, you should consider the degree of the country's culture context. In that way, mas mabilis para sa operation ng business na ma-communicate ang ginagawa ng negosyo sa kanilang bansa. Another principal category defined by Hall is the space. Space refers to the study of physical space and people. He called this the study of proxemics, which focuses on space and distance between people as they interact. Space refers to everything from how close people and stand to one another, to how people might mark their territory or boundaries in the workplace and other settings. So based on the picture, makikita natin on how distance interpret relationship. So, yung 250 centimeter apart, it means relationship is intimate. And 0.5 to 1 naman if personal, and social is 124 meters. And public naman kung 4 meters pataas. So, ang distancing ay nagko-communicate kung anong merong culture tayo. And kung ano yung nakasanayan natin. So, meron nga tayong kasabihan na based on distance, on how close the people is, kung anong relationship meron sila. It means, it will definitely help us to understand the countries with this kind of culture. The last category defined by Hall is the polychronic or monochronic culture. Monochronic societies like to focus on just one task at a time. They put a priority on order lines and the feeling that something has its proper time and place. Interruptions are not valued by them. They are like doing at once in a polychronic societies. They are like doing many tasks at once. A polychronic word at a manager's office usually has an open entrance, a ringing phone, and a meeting going on the same time.